All right, so this is our first reflection for our project, which is called Yaki Dayan Ta'ada, which in Hausa means fight the terrorists. Now, our big essential question is how has African terrorism infiltrated African society, and how has African counterterrorism affected terrorism in Africa? So, our project, our group, which consists of me, Cameron, Danny over there, Wave, Nima, and Zach, and we're going to talk about just our first reflection challenge, which is explain the big idea, the essential question, which I've already covered in the challenge. Why is this important to us and the community, and who does this challenge impact? So, the big idea. So, African terrorism to Americans wasn't really a big deal before 9/11. Islamic roots go back all the way to the Crusades, and ever since there's been a strong Muslim community in North Africa, especially, and because of that, with the spread of extremism in the last decade, lots of extremist groups have started popping up in all kinds of countries all over Africa. And it was actually through a debate topic that I got introduced to this subject. It was a bill about giving money to 5 different countries: Nigeria, Libya, Somalia, Kenya, and Nigeria. And I did a lot of research on that and realized what a huge problem African terrorism is, and how Al Qaeda has been trying to spread their movements all over Africa. Sorry, did I forget Mali? Yes. I forgot Mali, sorry. And also, Cameron happened to have wave Cameron. You can see that. Cameron also was researching Nigeria for a comparative government project, and our little connection with Boko Haram, we were just like, yeah, we know people. Anyways, it was an awesome moment for us. And anyways, so the big idea with this is a lot of the spread of extremism in Africa is kind of the responsibility of the United States. I mean, Al Qaeda barely existed before 9/11. They did exist, they did plenty of bad terrorist attacks, but after 9/11, the United States kind of freaked out about terrorism, and ever since, every time there's been a major terrorist attack here or there in Africa, the United States has responded, and Congress has allocated funds to those countries to fund counterterrorism efforts. And in some cases, like Kenya, it's actually ended up spreading terrorism rather than getting rid of it, because they've basically incentivized these African nations to fight terrorism so much that it's actually oppressing Muslim communities, and they're resorting to terrorism as a way to fight against America and to fight against the government who's oppressing them. So, anyways, Cameron would love to talk about how everything he's learned about Nigeria in the past couple months. He's learned a lot about Boko Haram, and actually, that's the language for our title, Yaki Dayan Ta'ada. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's the same language. It's Hausa. And Cameron is going to talk more about this.
All right, yes. Boko Haram, a Muslim jihadist group. Boko Haram is actually translated into English as anti-Western education. They've infiltrated Nigeria, Niger, and Cameroon. And most recently, they've infiltrated the Nigerian political government. Goodluck Jonathan recently has stated that Nigeria, if I could have the quote.
Yeah. Nope, that's not it.
Oh, it's not this one.
It's not that one.
All right. Well, basically, Goodluck Jonathan, the president of Nigeria, has stated that Boko Haram has infiltrated their executive arm of government, some in parliament/legislative arm, and even the judiciary. He even said that you could be sitting down at dinner.
Sorry.
You could be sitting down at dinner and be sitting with someone who's in Boko Haram. Boko Haram, basically, they're attacking the Christian population of Nigeria, as well as Muslims who don't follow the Sharia law, which is one of their main beliefs. Also, most recently, Boko Haram has attacked schools, and even today, earlier today, they attacked a school and killed approximately 50 students.
Yeah, it was really bad.
All right.
That was Danny's job.
Yeah, so just this is all to do with our challenge, which is trying to analyze the spread of terrorism and really, who's at fault? Is it Al Qaeda or is it America? And in the case of Boko Haram, of course, it's Boko Haram's fault for corrupting every single branch of the government. But, yeah, so we're going to be covering all that stuff in the next couple weeks for this project. So here is Danny for some more stuff.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm going to sit right here. Do you want to hold it up close to your face?
Yeah, I'll try to hold it.
Selfies with Danny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about why this topic is important to us. And this topic is important to me because terrorism kills everyday citizens. They impose their will on those whom they deem less superior to themselves or who aren't allied to their regime and organization. Men, women, children, just like the 59 who were slaughtered today in northeast Nigerian boarding school today were killed. They're forced to live in fear as a result of the oppression they face daily. And here's Nima.
Right. This is why it's important to our community. Ever since these terrorist attacks, the U.S. is supposedly trying to help these countries by giving them aid, and which they do. They send money and they try to train, like military training for their troops so they can try to fight these terrorist groups. But it's almost backfired as some of these, this training has caused Africans to go and join the terrorist groups, which almost is not what the U.S. wants to do at all. And also countries like Somalia and others are their government is corrupt with terrorist groups such as Al Qaeda and Boko Haram. So whenever we send money, who knows actually how much money is being received by the terrorist groups and how much, if any, are being received by the government of the country that we're trying to help. So the U.S. needs to directly find a way to help these countries without almost getting backfired on. And I don't know. Here's John, Cameron, Zach. What am I talking about?
Where's the packet? Ask me packet. Who does the challenge impact?
You told me I was answering questions.
Okay.
Me and John
So-
are going to both go over this because
Yeah, we're
informed about
both
the
going
question.
to go over this last question. This is who does the challenge impact? So this challenge is all about African terrorism, right? So, all the time, as we talked about earlier a couple times, there was a Nigerian attack on a school just today that killed 50 citizens, children, not men and women, children. And so we can see that terrorism, it's affecting everybody. It impacts everybody.
It's fear in
With-
everyday lives.
Yeah, it's fear in everyday lives. I mean, we can see from 9/11 that it was a totally different world after 9/11 because
Getting on an airplane.
I mean, yeah, getting on airplanes, airport security is totally different. There's so much fear of terrorism, and it's especially affected Islamic communities, especially here in the United States, but also in Africa because in all these countries, there's Muslim roots in all these countries, and they feel strong American effects because all the time Americans talk about how we need to, help Africa. We need to send water and food and shelter and aid, and we're kind of like Africa's saving grace. And then they have these terrorists come in, and in some cases like Nigeria, take over the government, or in Mali also take over the government, and with Tuareg tribes in the north in Mali, and lots of other examples. So it's affecting families, women and children, and everyone. And it's not really so. mostly this challenge is affecting Africans, but it also affects people here in the U.S. because Al Qaeda is using training grounds in Africa just as much as they are in the Middle East.
Sorry.
And so, I mean,
My
who
note.
knows where the next terrorist, the next 9/11, the terrorist would come from? You know, he might come from a training ground out in North Waziristan in Pakistan, or he might come from Afghanistan. He might come from Iran. He might come from Nigeria. We don't know. He might come from the United States.
Terrorist.
Terrorism is a huge problem in today's world because we're not, as I'm going to quote Skyfall from James Bond, where M, I think it was.
Great movie.
She said it was a great movie. Nima says. M said that in the movie that our enemies are no longer countries or nations. Now they're our war now is in the shadows. We're fighting individuals, not countries, and so it's a different kind of war that we have to fight. And so unless we understand that war and understand, who that affects, we're not going to be able to effectively make good political decisions for our country. And it is a democracy, so each one of us is affected. We should all choose.
All right, this is
what
the
to
end
do
of
with
our
it.
first
So,
reflection.
Anyways, yeah, this is the end of our first reflection.
11
I
minutes
hope-
later.
I hope you've learned a lot about terrorism in Africa, whoever is watching this. And yeah,
Until next
we'll
time.
We heart our
we'll
viewers.
be back next week. So we heart our viewers. Okay.
1 million subscribers this
Peace out.
week.